Great. I'm turning recording on, and I'm going to begin sharing the presentation. Okay, go ahead, Kalyan. On to
you. Okay, so so thanks, Don. Thanks all for joining the call today. Today we are going to be talking about innovation ideation workshop. We like to do this once a year, where we can just openly talk about what we think is in store for service management, what are the trends and things like that. So this is going to be facilitated by Don. So please feel free to provide your input. So this is not, as we always say and as we always do, we like member participation. We would like discussions rather than a presentation. So this is going to be very interactive, and we would like all of you to provide your inputs so we can get your thoughts. And after all, ITSMF is all about sharing ideas and sharing the best practices. So that's what the most of today's talk is going to be. But before we get into that, I think we already talked about, we already introduced ourselves. So we have done that. But I want to just briefly talk about what ITSMF is. Although most of you in the call know about it. So as I mentioned, this is a membership association. It's about $200 a year. There is a lot of being a member has lots of benefits. One of them is this league meetings where you get to join, and you get to share your share your experiences and ask questions. And we, among members, we try to help each other. So basically, the ITSMF is dedicated to the promotion and advancement of the service management best practices and standards. I don't need to tell you about the service management because all of us in the call are in one way or another associated with it. But service management as a practice, as you may be aware, is poised to actually get into the new realm of things. So far we have all been talking about for a long time, IT service management. So service management was confined to the IT organization, but more and more vendors are now coming up. It's both from the vendor perspective as well as from organizations perspective. The IT service management practices are being implemented on other departments as well. You might see some the vendors coming up with the product tool, the service management features for departments like HR, legal, and facilities and all that stuff. So the service management area itself is expanding. So it's a great time to be associated with this forum, and we can definitely do better together. As I already mentioned, we have been, we have restarted, and the leadership team is Hardeep and Don and Kalyan. One small change so far it's been, the same three people we have been, in the leadership team. I was the president till now. Now, Don has agreed to become the president because I've been, president for the past 2 years. And Hardeep is helping us. He's the president-elect. So next time he's going to be the president. Since this IT service management forum is all volunteer driven, so what we really want to ask and request, and you can spread the word, is we are looking for volunteers. As Hardeep mentioned, the last 2-3 months we couldn't do what we wanted to do because we all have our work day job, and we try our best to organize these kind of events. But the more hands to help us, the better. So we definitely want, right now we are looking for somebody who can actually help us with organizing the event like this, and spreading the word to the community and updating the community of what's going on. So we definitely request your help. Please spread the word so we get more people to help us. Having said that, I just don't want to take much of your time, so I really want to start discussing the meat of today's event. So I'm going to hand it over to Don. So Don, take it away.
Fantastic, and thank you, Kalyan. one other note that I would say is we do have, Kellyanne has talked about the importance of getting involved and how much we are excited to be bringing you these programs, but we also need your help and from the community. We need your presence at the meetings and helping us get the word out. We'd love to have you join us on our LinkedIn community or Facebook community. We're all of the above. We're also on Twitter. But we also have a meeting coming up in January that's going to be in Santa Clara at BMC. We start to see some very exciting innovation, machine learning, really how BMC is defining the customer experience. So we're very excited to be going and having them host an event at their location. So watch the calendar for that in mid-January.
Yeah. Hey, Don, so sorry to interrupt. I think Naveen has joined the call. Hey, Naveen, can you hear us?
Hey, Kalyan, yeah.
Yeah, so Naveen is also a long-term participant. Yeah, so Naveen, we just started. We did, you are aware of, you already know about ITSMF and you've been a long-time participant. But if you don't mind, can you just do a quick introduction of yourself so others in the call would get to know you?
Definitely. Hello, everyone. My name is Naveen. I've been in the IT service management part of the world for about 10 years. Can you all hear me?
You're a little quiet.
Barely.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Don't be so shy, Naveen. I've never known you to be so shy.
Hang on a second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but the volume is low.
All right. I think I have to join from my phone. But yeah, I've been in the enterprise service management world for about 10 years now. I work for an IT services company taking care of US West operations, and one of my areas of expertise happens to be enterprise service management CIO advisory. So that's a little bit about me for now.
Fantastic. Glad you're here. I haven't seen you in so long, so someday I hope to see more than just your name.
Hang on a second. I'm working on that.
Some quick features, by the way, I've put this back up. If you guys would like to stay in touch, we do not publish our attendees list. But for open sharing in these webinars, one thing that we suggest to our members is to use the Zoom feature. So if you go to your upper right hand, I believe it's your upper right hand menu, and select chat, you could send a message to all the members that you'd like to keep in touch with after the meeting. Just a brief introduction of who you are, what you'd like to, what you'd like to be in touch with. You can send it to everyone, or you can direct it to one of the attendees on the call. So definitely you can use that chat feature, just so long as you only use it when you're not contributing to this event. The most important part of this event is it's a member-driven event. So the content and the goodness that comes out of this will come out of the result of our engaging one with another. So definitely use the chat feature to message, and it'll go to everyone on the call, or you can direct it to one person. Make sure to include your name, the company, your title, and anything you'd like to greatest service management success, or one of your big service management challenges that you'd like us to discuss in future meetings, or on the call today, because this is an innovation workshop. And part of innovation is understanding where do we have obstacles and how can we help the organizations we serve and the customers that, how do we create that love with our customers that they want to do business with us and they want to talk about it and keep doing that. So with no further ado, definitely feel free to use that chat feature if you'd like to be in touch with our other members. And did I miss anything, Kellyanne or Hardeep, before we go into the agenda?
No, I think we are good. Yeah, I think we covered the basic things.
Okay. And you guys, do you see my screen okay?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. So we created an infograph of what we see happening in the industry today. And this is just basically going to kind of kick us off about what people are seeing. If you have comments or questions as we go through this, let me know. But the main things that we're seeing from the survey of Silicon Valley leaders in this area, there's a huge commitment to, they call it CX. It's customer experience. How do we create a successful customer experience? 86% of customers will pay more for better customer support. Now, what this means if you're in business is all businesses need to be looking at creating the successful customer experience, because that's how they continue to differentiate their brand and how they continue to stay highly relevant. We got to constantly be in a cycle of understanding what's going on in the ground. What our customers need from us? And by the way, as we go through this, if you have things you'd like to add related to any of these, bring those in, and then we'll get into the topic of the innovation workshop.
Hey, Don, just to add on to that, the customer experience thing, I think I would say that the main difference over there is the customer is changing. If you really see in the enterprise space, more and more millennial generation is coming in, and that's the reason why the way they consume the information is different. And that's the reason that the customer experience channels are getting different. So they're more attuned to the chat features rather than going to a portal. So, for example, that's driving those customer experience initiative in the enterprise.
It's certainly changing the way we interact with our customers and the way we get feedback. It's less survey driven and more interaction driven. You're right. Good input. Other thoughts on customer experience? Okay. The second thing that companies are looking for, of course, and this is an obvious one, is what are the solid strategies? How can we grow revenue? What we're hearing from the community is that 45% of executives are focusing on improving their return on investment, and 42% of those surveyed viewed customer experience as the key. You know, retaining customers and growing business, that's all about growing revenue. So there's a significant relationship between number 1 and 2 as the primary leadership focus coming into the next 2019 and probably the next 5 years, at least. Any other thoughts or comments? Steve, do you have comments on revenue? I know that that's something that you've sometimes done with your consulting. Okay.
Talking on mute.
I have more of a question to ask.
Yeah, I do. There's the frustration that I'm facing with it is that I can't get customers that I've been working for recently, the past couple of years, to be even interested in it. One was a government, county government, and they weren't interested in revenue. And the other one is a manufacturing company who their IT has as customers are the business units, the manufacturing units, and they just kind of see IT as a thing getting in the way. And so they don't go out of their way to try and do anything for the business other than stay out of their way. So it's kind of a different world where revenue and is means keeping things alive, keeping the lights on and making sure it works, and minimal spend on IT. Very different world.
The spend factor, that's another, I think, key point around revenue is where the projects are funded from, because you're right. It used to be, if you had something to be supported, you would engage IT and you do a massive project around being able to implement that. And right now we think that the DevOps space is really changing the culture for how we not only create services, but how we deliver and support them as well. And when you change the support structure and who you're talking to and what you're supporting, you're really changing where the funding comes from as well.
Right. And the funding in this case is coming from, these are chip companies. So they just care about their manufacturing staying alive, and they don't want to hear anything from IT.
Right.
So totally different attitude.
Yeah. And that brings us to number 3, which is IT relevancy. If the funding for IT changes, That doesn't mean IT becomes irrelevant, but it means that service management as a practice becomes more relevant. And what that means is we might be standing up projects and making them products way sooner. And our customers need us to deliver incremental changes and incremental support, which requires IT to work a little differently than we used to. Certainly a lot more embedded with the DevOps culture, and certainly supporting service in a different way that we had before. So it's about involving our service management capabilities. How do we see that changing? Service management is being used, and this is part of what Steve had talked about too, is, how do we keep the lights on? We see business units driving change, where before IT was a partner to change. Business units are embedded, IT and business units are embedded. So IT's role in keeping the lights on deals with stronger incident and request management. About 75% of our businesses, business units, not IT, but business units, are using incident and request directly. 51% using change management directly. And 43% of the business units are using problem and creating some version of their own service catalog separately. Some of this is related to conversions in the cloud, and some of it is related just to changing business model. So how can we develop our capabilities to support this new culture when service management extends far beyond IT? Other thoughts on
well, I was just going to add to that is what I'm seeing in where I am now. And they say, give me the tools, and would you like some process with your tools? And that's sometimes yes and sometimes no. Or yeah, maybe we'd be interested in it, but then we don't go back and check on it. It's a little, because of the nature of the relationship that I described, it's a little touchy for IT to go back there and tell them, hey, this is the way you should be using this. Maybe we can get you some training and stuff like that, especially when we're zero funded. So
zero funding, but we still
need I think it's
to deliver value.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So this is Kalyan. So the way that I see it is, yes, IT maybe in some of the cases is kind of like an order taker, or keeping the lights on. They're performing those tasks. But I think IT, and especially service management, can really expand their roles from being just an order taker and to deliver things and to implement things, to actually being a true partner to the complete organization, or even for other departments in the organization. Definitely, what we are now discussing, is termed as the shadow IT, right? With the advent of cloud and other things, the business units themselves can actually leverage all those, cloud tools to, for provisioning and even managing the incidents by themselves. So, what is the relevance of IT and what is the relevance of service management? In my opinion, I think this is a great opportunity, because so far, and what needs to be done for that is the concept of service management, or what is being done under service management, I think that needs to be expanded. To give you an example, so far, when you're looking from an IT perspective, when you look at the incident and when you look at the metrics, right? We're all, even now, I think in most of the cases, the metrics that are being talked about are at the system level, availability, whether the server is up or down, right? And those are the metrics that are being, given to the business teams. But I think they are becoming more and more irrelevant. I mean, in the, when you have like thousands of servers and, cloud is, there's automatically things are coming up and down. The fact that one server goes down probably doesn't make a difference, right? But where service management and IT can really, help the business units is completely redefining what the metrics are and what are we measuring. We are not going to be, measuring at the system level, but we should be measuring at the business value level, right? And that is where I think the principles of IT service management can really be expanded and can be applied to others, but the perspective needs to change. When we actually look at what is an incident, how it is being impacted, rather than looking at the system level and the infrastructure level and the application specific level, it needs to be really looked at how how is the business really being impacted, right? And that's where the customer experience also comes into picture. How long does it take overall, cutting across all these processes and onboarding? Does it take 5 days? It used to take 10 days. Now with all this, is it taking 3 days or 4 days? So I think the perspective for service management needs to change. And if we evolve that, if we do that, I think IT can truly become from just being an order taker and just executing and implementing things to really be a true partner for others and actually leading the way how it should be done.
Right.
That's my 2 cents.
And I think that actually gives away the next element that leadership is looking at in service management. But before I go to the next element, I really want to emphasize that the statistics from a Gartner study on executive officers in Silicon, where are they focusing? Service management is a businesses now deliver. It's not it's a business solution. So service management is 65% of the business units interact with IT are now producing, consuming, and delivering services because of cloud. Italian's right. Because the cloud services are catered to business customer needs, it's easy. IT is creating the infrastructure to allow that and supporting that, but the business is now in the business of as well. So this brings us to our next big leadership.
So, John, sorry to interrupt once again. I would like to welcome our friend Alex. Hey, Alex, can you hear us?
Alexi.
I think that means yes, he can hear us, but Alex, we can't hear you.
Thank you so much, Kalyan.
Yeah, Alex, are you there? I think he's having some difficulty with audio.
Alexi, when you're able to come in, definitely introduce yourself. Interrupt me, please. I'll go on to the next big movement, and that is forging powerful strategic partnerships. What this means is we're very used to our silos. IT does service management, DevOps does engineering, HR does HR. But the reality is today, as Kalyan had indicated, we are in an opportunity cycle, but we need to redefine business and our partnerships. We are not a ticket handler. We don't open and close X number of tickets anymore. We're actually, what influence are we having on the business strategies and the digital opportunities that are helping companies become relevant? We're a service partner to creating relevance, to creating value, to navigating the customer journey in a positive way. We are a contributing role to the service offerings. A product is just a product, but how you use it, how you evolve it, how you integrate it with your business, and how that product solves problems, this becomes a shared responsibility where IT plays a role, but we partner together to create solutions. Now, why I talk about that is this is where IT Service Management Forum becomes a very powerful vehicle for us to come together. What are we working on? What are our challenges? And how can we work together more effectively? There's a lot of ideas shared here. There's a lot of experience that already exists here. When we come together to create those solutions, we create our own strategic partnerships that benefit our professional careers, the companies that we lead, and the customers and clients that we serve. So this is really where the magic happens, and I applaud you guys for being here. Alex, you're on mute now. Why wouldn't you, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Are you at a place where you can do that?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Alex.
Great. First of all, sorry for being late, just bad traffic. So my name is Alex. I'm in IT service management for more than 10 years. Currently working for the company called the iFish Group. It's in Sacramento, California. I'm responsible for managed services we are providing to a number of customers. The customers are mostly state agencies of California. So here's my business, just a bit about me.
Glad you're here. And Alex brings a lot of experience in the service management space and a lot of inspiration in this group too. So I'm really could make it.
Don, thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving right on, the notion of strategic partners is carried through in community innovation and leadership. What we're seeing for the companies that are relevant and are leading thought leaders in innovation, machine learning, digital opportunities, and redefining the customer experience, they're not doing that alone. They're doing that in partnership with other companies. And it's having an impact on our community, our environment. I think it creates jobs and opportunities like Kalyan talked about. We are working differently than we had before, but the opportunities for an adaptable IT or service management professional really have never been better, but the requirements are different. We have to be able to respond to business trends and identify and act on things way quicker. No longer do we have time for a 6-month to 1-year process. We're really talking about several weeks to a month planning and improving and responding and improving and delivering. So community innovation is key. When we come together and say, okay, how do I solve this now? We've got a team of people that can do that. You can move faster because of the experience that we have in our Bureau of Service Management goodies. Internet of Things requires new ways of looking at the way we deliver service, because now it's not just our computers, it's not just our cell phones, it's our computers, our cell phones, our watches, our microwaves. Cars driving on the road could be disrupted by cyber fraud, cyber threats. We have a lot of different challenges in IT that we never had before, but we also have a lot of value. IoT brings smarter cities. It's been proven to improve air, water, life quality, and healthcare worldwide. As we start to adjust to the implications of Internet of Things, building our credibility in our community and innovating smart, effectively and engaging together to create solutions, a lot more will come from that collaboration. Any comments on community innovation?
Yeah, I would say that this is becoming an interesting innovation forum in some of the companies where in old days the innovation was, okay, fine, you create an innovation team separately, but what we are seeing now within companies, okay, they bring customer and say, what are your key problems? And then bring a couple of engineers from different departments together and say, let's solve this customer problem, and not in months and years. Let's get together in 2 days time frame, do a hackathon and solve that business problem, innovate it. And so sometimes they not only bring customers, not only the companies, the product companies are bringing their own engineers, but they're also bringing all the customers engineers together and say, let's solve a common problem.
Right. I think you raise a really important notion with that too, Hardeep. When I worked at NTT, one of the things, NTT Data, one of the things that they do is they do an innovation workshop where they basically break the whole group into like 8 different teams, and they brainstorm just random solutions that you would never dream of. And at the end of the workshop, there's like, we would pitch the ideas, and some of those ideas would actually create money and product and services. The notion of innovation workshops to create new business ideas is solid. The hackathon ideas that comes in to solve a very specific problem, that's also I work in fraud management space, and I've seen some amazing things happen by just bringing together people from different spaces to talk about their views of. That brings us into our next topic: cybersecurity and fraud operations.
Yeah. So, Don, this is Kalyan. Just my 2 cents here. With regards to this innovation, in my opinion, it is important for another reason also. I think Hardeep mentioned initially that more and more millennials are coming in. They are used to different ways of working, right? Not just millennials, and right now today, one of the another key aspect of IT that has to, one of the challenges that IT have to deal with is there is a very clear difference between the way that people are used to in their personal lives, and then when they come to the office in the organization, the way things are happening is different, right? We are used to buying things seamlessly from Amazon, right? And Alexa, all those interfaces, right? I mean, getting the weather, you just say, Alexa, what's the weather, right? Now, and then so we want to get things done using smartphone. It opens up lots of possibilities. So that's what we are used to in our personal life. But when you come to the office, and then you have to open a laptop, you have to go to a browser, or you have to open an application, and just your normal day-to-day operation. So this conflict, how do you actually? So this IT is going through, in my opinion, IT is going through this challenge of how do you get the innovation, and the innovation that is happening in the personal lives is really tremendous, right? With the advent of new technologies, new devices, and the way of doing things is totally different. And you have to take that and put it into your enterprise processes, right? Organizational processes. And that is another reason why this innovation concept is very critical, right? And you have to do this by cutting across silos, by having efficient processes and new ways of doing things, right? What we call, bringing in the disruption to the business. And I think IT, while it is a challenge, but again, I'm viewing that as an opportunity for IT by utilizing this innovative, leadership. I've been having a forum like that. They can actually bridge the gap and really bring the enterprise processes to the level that people are used to seeing, in their personal lives.
That's true. Think about things.
So, and I think before we jump onto this topic, I think I completely agree with that. I was in a workshop yesterday where we were looking at enterprise search, like the way the search is implemented in enterprise. And the first thing came up: why is our enterprise search so cumbersome? I search for one topic and I get probably the first page is anyway not relevant, and whereas when you go to Google, it is very relevant. Now they can even suggest you something. So, and I think you're right. So if you don't innovate, people will start comparing you with their real life scenarios, right? Okay, fine. If I go to Google and I can get what I want, why can't I do the same thing in my enterprise systems?
Well, so I have kind of a counter to throw at that, and that's the cyber side. And so if you think about the cyber side and trying to manage IoT in your organization, in your enterprise, as you would in your house, only on a much larger scale, it would be almost impossible. Think about doing asset management for IoT devices and just any endpoints like that. It gets very, very difficult. And trying to control what gets said, how it gets said, and so forth, and also who collects that data and who uses that data for your company, because you don't know that it's, you don't know what Google's going to do with your conversations. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it gets in all these other issues that make it very ugly.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. But when you look at those aspects, redefining how IT is providing service to business takes priority. Say, when you're working with cloud service providers, SaaS or PaaS providers, at that point, then the question about information security comes into place, and that's where IT can play a very critical role. Even get the possibility to eliminate shadow IT or reduce shadow IT options, even if they are not eliminating it. Say, if it's a critical application, even if it's on SaaS or PaaS, someone has to vet it for information security aspects. Say, let's say, for an example, if it's financial services or healthcare, at that point, there are a lot of regulation that needs to be followed, starting from SOX up to SOC 2, whatever it is. So that's where IT can play that role. And so not just focusing on incidents and tickets, but also on vendor management as a primary category, because all these
Agreed.
systems are not maintained by internal IT anymore. So they have to rely on a different team and also get the work done through them and see how they can create or get information and make it as transparent as possible for them within the bounds of their organization.
Which
And
means,
to your point, I think that's where there's a lot of room for innovation
Exactly.
between IT and security,
Yeah.
IT service management and security.
Yeah. So I mean, just to add to just add to what Naveen said, exactly the point, right? The enterprises have, it should have its own security. Steve, you're mentioning that, the asset information needs to be controlled. There has to be appropriate access control. So all that is given. But I think again, these are the challenges that IT needs to overcome. But at the end of the day, when you look at the digital transformation that is going through, and we have put, I think, the point number one is the customer experience, right? With all of this, how best can we provide, and what is the best customer experience can we provide, right? By utilizing the various technologies, but at the same time ensuring that the integrity of the information, the security is not compromised. And that's where I think is the true opportunity lies. The IT needs to move away from managing the incidents and managing the system to thinking about all these things. How do they actually bring the innovation in here without compromising all the security aspects? I think that's a great opportunity here.
Well, I think we have to recognize that fraud is getting more perverse. I mean, it's getting more prevalent because fraudsters organize and create their own cyber communities. 60% of business surveyed said that the events that they're dealing with in the cybersecurity and information security space are getting more complex and more severe. Was there another? I think there was another comment.
Yeah, so I think, just to home on the security, while we are on the security, I think one of the things where security is becoming embedded in the service management space, and I'm handling it right now, is this new concept of zero trust network. So what happens there? But how does that help in service management? That's the question. So to implement a zero trust network, you need the repository of your assets, right, and the personas and everything. And that's where I personally believe there is now a kind of an integration happening between service management and security. So if you want to implement a robust security within your environment, within an enterprise, you need to really have a good system of record, and that is becoming more like a service management becoming a system of record. So there is that integration happening now, especially when you're moving more towards kind of a new kind of innovative network like zero trust network.
Right. I think that's
yeah, I agree with.
Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, I was gonna say I agree with what Hardeep just said. The difficulty is that the vendors aren't playing very well with it. Some of the CMDBs or asset management systems, shall we say, whatever you want to call them, don't lend themselves to doing that very well anymore. And they used to. There used to be a separate AMDB type of system that would do a really good job just at that.
Right.
But our biggest 800-pound gorilla out there right now does a terrible job. So.
And virtualization, I think how we control our endpoints becomes, if you're not using the right systems and you don't have a robust process, you have a real problem on your hands for tech controls too.
Yeah, and I think that's where the whole concept is changing. By default, you're not given access to anything.
Right.
Access is not a right. It's a kind of a you need to go and make sure that you get an access, and that's the reason why the customer experience become very important in those kind of tightly controlled environment. In the next kind of a working environment, where if you need an access, you request for an access and you get an access immediately, you get an approval immediately. I was surprised by one of the guys who kind of joined Apple, and they said that he as an employee, the full-time employee, he doesn't have access to some of those product offices, the floors. He has to specifically ask for a request for that, and it's that the request is not cumbersome. It's just that you need to request for that. By default, you're not given access to everything.
Right.
Good.
And that helps businesses control their licenses and their management and their system controls. However, this actually implies that IT's role transitions from that of ticket takers from a myriad of different applications. That's actually pushed out to the vendor that's supplying those products in many cases, which means that IT's role then is supporting the pipe, the identity, the architecture, the asset, the config, and the change. So what are the incidents, and how can I go in and help the business identify where they've got problems and how I can partner with them to help them solve them. So yeah, it does imply a change to the way IT typically supports products, tier 1 and tier 0.
So Don, were you saying that IT is pushing it out to outsourcers?
No, I'm really saying that the business evolved to a place where the business has a number of cloud services that are supported out there in the cloud, and
yes,
IT is supporting them a single sign-on access to get to those services.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. They're also supporting the networks, the servers. They're still supporting the data centers that enable that, or the virtual environments that enable the testing and development. But IT is not supporting as much complexity in terms of software applications, hundreds of applications. Now they're supporting higher criticality services that all of these cloud services depend on, the governance requirements, and the supportability and serviceability of the customer experience.
That's true. A lot of companies have Office 365. It's a good example in Azure.
Yeah, it is. Cybersecurity and InfoSec is a factor, and then the next, of course, then really talks about the convergence of IT and InfoSec coming together, is integrating technology-enabling business methods, processes, and tools. Callie and I talked about this difficulty of, we do things differently in our home, and we expect when we go into order a car in Uber that the driver is going to come at exactly the point where I am and take me to exactly the point I need to know. So when we get into the office and we're told we need to deploy machine learning and automation and chatbots for support, and we say, whoa, what are we doing to the customer experience? Well, we need to change the way we think about how we do business. If an incident or something that IT is delivering becomes more critical now, the way that we raise and respond to the incidents needs to be challenged. How can we shave minutes off of that? How long does it take to stand up a bridge and communicate? If we create pipes for those standard communications and really get the way we deliver service down to an art, we enable the business. And that 57% are saying that tech and process alignment's critical. Well, IoT changes, the dependency is greater, not less. So any thoughts on integrating technology that enables the business to be effective? I think that's where IT's primary role comes to, is we have a lot of experience in how a service is packaged for customer experience. And how it's
this is Kalyan. Absolutely right. See, although there is an argument that says that the tools are going to be much more powerful, the service management tools, and the processes can be taken care of that way. But I still feel that this is where this is another area where IT can really provide value, because the tools can provide various processes and shortcuts to the processes and all that stuff, configuration and all the stuff. But IT, instead of just looking at the systems and their scope, if they can just look into the business aspect of things, how do I enable business, right? How do I ensure that the customer experience is fine, at the same time shorten the lifespan of shorten the process time, right? this is where IT can really add value on top of the whatever tool that they have. And I think you kind of touched upon that, Don, that today incident management is happening. Tools provide ways of actually managing the incidents, but the automation of those incidents, truly the IT, who's sitting next to the business or who should be sitting next to the business and talking to them can know what kind of automation can, should be done. What kind of integration should be done. For example, in an organization, there are various collaboration tools, right? Some may be using Slack, some may be using, Microsoft Teams, some may be using Skype. How do we improve and enhance the incident management process by integrating these collaboration tools that are specific to a particular organization? And how do they actually provide a better way of managing the incident by ensuring that it's communicated quickly and reducing the time it takes to resolve an incident? I think that's another area where IT and service management can really help a lot, and this is an important aspect of IT, I would say.
Right.
Yes. To add to that, I think I had this real good example that just happened in my company. So what we had is a really good service management organization within the IT world. And our CIO will always go and talk to the executive and say how good the IT is, how well we have done some stuff. And what happened with that is the CFO came and said, I would like to understand how you run your operation. And then what that transpired is when we showcase how we run our operation, IT operation, how we manage our ticket, we were able to go and work with finance and say, okay, we can take some of the work that you guys are still doing on a distribution list and all those kind of things and completely automate it. And they certainly saw that the light bulb clicked on the finance organization, finance support organization, say, okay, fine, yeah, we can leverage the platform, we can leverage the process, and we can leverage the model. I think that's the key thing, the model, the service model that ITSM proposes. If you really look at that, wherever business supports internal or external employees or partners, they can use the same model in a way. At the end of the, whether it's an incident or whether it's a customer case, it's a workflow. It is that I have a request and I have to fulfill that request. So what I have seen in my organization is that if your leadership is able to go back and present that model and promote that model, there are executives in other business lines who will be ready to adopt that model, and that creates a real value. And I was really surprised when IT was asked to present our operating model to the board, which I have never seen in many companies where IT was allowed to go and present to the board how well we run our operation.
But your operations are critical, and your customers are impacted by constantly evolving, very smart cyber criminals. What you're doing in response to that is world class. It doesn't surprise me that you guys have a role. I think what we need to do is get better at telling the story of how an IT person can come in and hum a few bars of the problem you're having. And suddenly we start to go to what's the real incident, what's the real root cause, and what's the real fix that we could apply that will solve that problem. It doesn't matter that the problem is an application or a problem or a solution or a threat.
Yeah, just a couple of points here, Don. I think Hardeep has really touched upon the core of the complete service management. Where it should be, right? It is because if you really look at it, service management, with IT in front, right? With the prefix IT, has all the necessary processes that are required to manage a service, right? Be it change management, problem management, incident management, service request, right? Now he gave a live example of how another department, finance in this case, is actually coming in and really saying that, the processes are good. And that is actually what I think, in my opinion, going forward, the prefix IT will move away, and then the new prefix of enterprise, E is going to come in. Instead of ITSM, it has to be enterprise service management, because whether you are in finance or facilities, there are, people are asking for service, right? There are requests that are coming in. And we have already in ITSM, we already have established practices, best practices of how to handle a service, how to handle an incident. And the type of incident could vary. The type of change could vary. I mean, facilities, right? You could be taking your conference hall down, and then you could be modernizing it, right? But it is the change as far as the process is concerned. There is some change happening, so you need to make sure that those assets are the configuration item, those assets are pushed off, right? And the same process for ITSM could be applicable there. So that is why I think more and more these other supporting organizations of an departments of an organization like legal, finance, and HR, they start to see it. The more and more they are going to adapt these principles, and hence from IT service management, we will be entering into enterprise service management, soon.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. Gives way to the next one, which is reducing operational costs using those technology enabling business processes in our mind and in our experience to solve problems. Then we start to extend it out to automation and machine learning, and this allows us to actually extend our problem solving to understand the way those workflows come to life. What's the handoffs? What's the production? What is the tolerance to where this is a problem we need to act on to prevent downtime or to predict demand and start supplying what is actually required bandwidth-wise? Other thoughts?
Yeah, I think the difficulty that I have realizing in that it's an excellent model if you're able to realize it, is that most companies don't have the capability of doing that. So we don't have the tool sets, and so that's quite an accomplishment to be able to do that.
Yes, Steve. So I think that is changing with the technology that is coming in. So I'm not able to kind of name the company, but what I've seen, some of the startups that are coming up now, what they're doing is they're making this AI ML more of a commodity service now. So what they're saying is that we'll ingest the data, we'll identify your hotspots, we'll identify your hotspot where this automation can really help, and based on what I have seen, it is very powerful if they do it using a true machine learning. Because at the end of the day, when they start consuming the data from your ticketing system or your service management system and start looking at more in a machine model basis, they can get inside that probably as an individual. It will take us like a couple of analysts to do that, but then the moment they're done with that analysis is old. Whereas if the machine is doing the same analysis, I have seen a huge value in that, using that model. But again, I think that is the next probably I would say innovation that is coming in service management space. These chatbots who are not being configured, because there are a lot of chatbots where you can configure and define the workflow. Instead of that, the chatbots which are continuously learning from your data, and what I've seen is based on what our data was, that they can reduce your actual service desk ticket by almost like 30%, 30 to 40%. These chatbot, if they are implemented in the right way, and if they're not doing the same thing. I was surprised that when the machine did the learning kind of a thing, they came back and said, oh, you have like 20% of your DL, even though it is automated. So we have a self-service DL, but people still come and request for through service desk, and service desk will send them a ticket. But think about that. If there's a chatbot, they will never touch a service desk. They will directly go to chatbot. Chatbot knows that the person is requesting for DL and then get automated. One, it improves the customer experience. The second, it reduces the cost overhead of a service desk. If you have outsourced your service desk and a service desk person picking up a call, that's the cost to the business. So I think this is going to go. This innovation is going to come in the mainstream in next 1-2 years in a big way, especially in the service management space.
It is, because the tool space, the process space, and the cost point becomes more accessible from most tools that people are using for service delivery. We will see some examples of that at BMC in our meeting in January. but we also know that ServiceNow is doing some innovation there. I am in case management deployment now that is looking at those types of aspects as well. If we really look at what IT and InfoSec do to be able to detect threats coming into the environment, there are thresholds and filters that they are able to get at that would also improve the finance cycle, the e-commerce space, the way we deliver service, the way we support, and reduce known threats before they even are able to be damaged.
Yeah, no, they have fantastic possibilities, and I'm glad to hear they're that close on the horizon. I know that at least one company is selling them, but I don't know how useful they are. But it's good to hear that they're being used.
I see it really
as actually very well implemented in some of the cases of customer engagement, not specifically IT service management. The technology part is still evolving because in this slide, if you look at it, 7 and 8 have to be in place for IT to be IT service management or IT help desk part to be completely automated.
You're absolutely
because
right.
8 gives you the option of reasoning or for a system to reason out what a customer is asking about. And 7 is needed for executing whatever the system understood to resolve or completely fulfill the user's request, say addition to distribution list, or if the user has some question about something not working at that point. The 8 system, if it's implemented in the right way, not like a DMV customer service agent, but like a Virgin America or former Virgin America Airlines customer service agent. Because these AI and ML models, based on what type of algorithms are being used, based on the data that is being sent, it can be like a DMV agent or like the best customer service agent. It really depends on how these models are being trained and what type of data is being fed to them. This helps them in reasoning things out.
Yeah, so I'm interested in going down one level different on that. I think this is really, really nice. So I'm going to ask a question beyond this to kind of tease everybody's mind and see what else information you guys have got. Because I'm interested in seeing how far these guys can go with, it's not necessarily bots, but how good can AI and machine learning do with incident management?
Yeah. So Steve, in my opinion, right, the AI and the ML, they have a lot of potentials, but I think where they probably even now play a major role is in what we don't see, right? I mean, yes, bots and service requests, can all be automated. But if you see today with cloud, there are so many servers that are running up and down. You have monitoring systems in place, right? So where I think, maybe I don't know what product it is, but I think they already have it in place is, let's say one server goes down, right? And there is, or for a server, the CPU is running really hot, about 95%. What I have seen in my experience previously is that yes, you have monitoring systems, so there are monitors at 95%, and then a ticket or an email goes to a support person. The person has to go in and then go there and say, okay, so this server is running really hot. Users are not being impacted, but the support person goes in and then they basically go there and restart that server or a load balancer, right? There's a problem. These are not pretty much visible to the client. End users are not impacted, but it is really draining the resources, right? There's going to be always somebody in L1, you call it L1 or whatever label we provide to the support personnel. They are sitting and looking at the queue. Okay, CPU is 80%, memory is more than 70%. I have to go there and basically, this size is growing, right? And we need to delete some data. This is where I think, right now maybe there is a lot of benefit is being, through AI and ML, we can have a lot of benefit. They actually you can automate all those processes based on what has been done previously to resolve similar issues. I think there are some products that are already in there. So I feel that the benefit on that side, which is not pretty much visible to the customers or the end users, is enormous using this AI and ML in order to keep the lights on, because there are lots of, in order to keep the lights on, there are lots of support activities that are going on, to the rote activities, right? Repetitive activities, this is where I think AI and ML can play a huge role in ensuring that the lights are on.
It is.
Kalyan, what you're mentioning is incident management, eliminating incidents totally before they even occur.
Event management, basically event management, right?
Self-healing, yeah. I think that when we talk about AI's potential, its application really depends upon, and Naveen had said this, and I will reiterate it because I think the two build on one another. Understanding your process and its dependencies well enough that you can teach an AI or machine learning system to do an even better job. Let's say infrastructure as a service allows you to identify what is this, okay, this server is pegged out. What does that mean? It means absolutely nothing if it's got automatic failover that it hits this threshold and it heals itself. But it does matter if you've got the wrong architecture supporting your infrastructure. So we got to get better at defining the enabling business architecture, process stability, and serviceability to be able to allow machine learning to do a better job with incident. The other places machine learning can help is, of course, we talk about chatbots for automatic, easy service fixes or password resets. That's what we always talk about. But the capabilities to enabling finance as a service or e-commerce as an architecture or information security threats as a service, there's a lot of sub-service activities that would do better with machine learning if we got better at telling machine learning what to look at.
Yeah, and I think on the chatbot side, I think there's a big hype out there, you know. But
right.
what I've seen is that if you have trained a chatbot using a workflow, it's not a chatbot. It's just somebody you're telling a machine. A real chatbot, the way I see it, as one who's continuously learning like human. If you don't have that kind of chatbot, then every time you go analyze the data and then you create another workflow there. And what I've seen is most of the companies are implementing that kind of a chatbot. So if you ask a question in a different way, it will get stumped out and say, okay, I don't know, I'm going to give you a handover to another agent. But that is where the NLP and ML comes in play, because NLPs have been a topic for last 15, 20, 30 years back. But NLP has evolved because the kind of infrastructure that we have now, kind of research that has gone in. So I think that is where ML and NLP are driving that new version of chatbot, which are continuously learning on your data, which are continuously looking at your data and saying, okay, what are the kind of problems that even though somebody is not coming to me and going to an agent, how are they solving that? That continuous learning mechanism and that matures the whole process. And that is where the machine learning is really, really crucial, because what they're doing is every ticket that is filed, machine is analyzing that ticket and saying, what happened here? And what can we do with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, there is, I think, Hardeep, there is some middle ground. I agree with you that, many of the chatbots today is, you go for a request and, it gives you some of the standard things. And after some time it says, okay, I'm redirecting you to a live agent, right? But I feel that what would be really useful is, I just mentioned about event management, right? Where things are happening behind the scenes. But, imagine there is a major outage that's happening, right? And there's a lot of people are now getting, involved and trying to figure out what's happening. This is probably happening, at least once a day, or, depending on the organization, it happens, right? I feel that if instead of viewing chatbot as where we ask for a request and provide it, we consider that as another live support personnel, right? So imagine having a
glorified IVR.
So basically we go there, but there is an incident that is happening. People are trying to troubleshoot it based on the information. You can instead of you can kind of treat it like, hey, do we have enough information about this server, right? Or has any problem has happened with the server before, or hey, there are any changes that has happened now that might have caused this issue, right? Instead of having some human going there and trying to figure it out and all that stuff, the bot could be utilized for that. So I know it's not the real ideal thing for a bot, but somewhere in the middle, where we could really treat it like an intelligent person, as a support personnel. to really go there and figure out what happened in this case, then keep providing whatever is the relevant knowledge, relevant that is whatever is happening around that configuration item. I think that is where it could be really useful. For incident or problem or even change management, a chat bot could be really useful there.
No, I completely agree with you. But the problem with the bots is that what you just mentioned. I think the way it is being implemented is what Naveen just mentioned, glorified IVR. Yeah. I'll tell what it is. Unless it can learn by itself, it can learn based on the data that is present. That chatbot is you're just kind of automating 10% of, you're just utilizing 10% of that benefit of that. But if the chatbot or can learn, as you said, okay, fine. Take example of Netflix. Netflix has something called Chaos Monkey, which goes and shut down the servers.
Right.
It purposely goes and shut down the server.
Right.
And see whether the server can heal itself, whether service can heal itself. Doing that kind of a thing is require a lot of learning behind the scene, right? So you need to learn about the service. You need to learn making sure if the service goes down, what is the alternate service I can bring it up and heal this service and then bring it back and feed those data. That is happening, but I think in an enterprise space, we are still seeing lack of that machine learning driven chatbots.
And that's why we've got 9 and 10, which is going to launch us into the workshop part of the workshop. 9 is basically looking at advanced technical service delivery. So we have to keep the lights on, we have to keep functioning, we have to keep delivering what the business requires, but we also have got to be able to figure out how to think outside the box and teach machine learning to help us do business better. Our speed of innovation and our time to market requires us being able to do things differently than we had before. So we really need to look at how do we advance technical service delivery, and what role does predictive analytics provide to helping us improve our revenue, retain customers, solve the problems that we need, point us in the direction of the biggest opportunity, and let us apply advanced technical service delivery towards solving that and embracing some of these new technology enablers like Internet of Things, which our customers want, or automated machine learning to help us process big blocks of data in seconds. Our companies, our competitors, certainly the fraud environment is using that technology. They're creating communities, they're selling how to cheat business today. We can be on top of that by doing these things effectively. Any comments on advanced technical service delivery and the role of predictive analytics before we launch into, we're almost at the point where I need to transition to the brainstorming part of the workshop, but I want to make sure that we've covered anything that you want to share on those areas.
Yes.
So there is
go ahead. Go ahead, Naveen.
There's an insight that I would like to share. Initially, we started discussing about how this cloud, SaaS, PaaS, and all these things is affecting the way IT is functioning today, specifically in managing any of the services. So one of the things that I'm seeing is with the advent of machine learning, some of them even think that the jobs are something that are lost at the front, at the help desk level. But that is not really the case. What happens is by incorporating all these AI and ML based chatbots, one thing what happens to these agents is they are elevated to the level of training these bots, building whatever is needed behind the scenes for these bots to automatically learn. When they get to that level, one, they get elevated and the advanced technical service delivery part is taken care of. And every single opportunity for automating service delivery, IT service delivery, can be easily done within an organization. If it took 10 months for the in-house IT to just complete a project that business asked, now it might take just 2 months. And say if this happens, business is not going to look at other opportunities of doing shadow IT type of things. Right. This will even help an organization to come back to the form where IT can really own IT and be a strategic partner for business.
Absolutely, Naveen. And what that implies, what that activity that you're talking about, being a partner to the business, implies is that it's time for us to challenge, are we measuring the right things and are we rewarding the right behavior? Help desks used to be, the traditional help desk, traditional service desk, used to be measured on number of tickets, big old messy, hairy problem. Whoever solved the most tickets was the hero. Whoever gets the highest customer satisfaction was the hero. But this is actually, when you talk about training bots and thinking differently and delivering solutions faster, perhaps the way we measure performance needs to be more gamified in its perspective of what are we delivering in our partnership? How do we measure our partnership and the quality of service or the customer experience? How do we measure that dial? It's not in solving a bunch of tickets. It's actually in delivering quality and solving problems that the customers have. Other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think just adding on to what you said, Don, I think one of the models that we have built in is Maslow hierarchy of IT needs or enterprise needs. So if you look at Maslow hierarchy, on the bottom, it is food, water, air, and everything, right? That's what a human need. What do we need for enterprise to be successful as operational, operational excellence? That is what we need for any organization to be successful. On top of that comes in Maslow hierarchy, if you need, is around human needs, right? Like love and all those kind of things, and your relationship with your parents, your siblings. That is where business partnerships comes in play for us. And on top of that, the last on the top on the Maslow hierarchy is something around the self-realization and really thinking, going above and beyond. And that's where the innovation comes in play. And that's what we call it, Maslow hierarchy of IT needs.
Right.
Operational excellence, business partnership, and innovation. So.
Good. So now we're going to transition, and I'm going to ask for some help as we go through this part. Sumanthi, did anybody else join that I missed? I see Sumanthi has joined. Please take yourself off mute and introduce yourself. To anybody who has joined while we've been talking through the trends. Is there anybody else that I've missed? I see a few other people. Masador. Who else has joined us? Hello?
Sunati, you can get off mute and introduce yourself.
I'm going to see who else we have. Sumanthi is here, and then I thought I saw some other people join, but I don't see them there now. Okay, Sumanthi's going to be shy.
That's okay, Don. You can give her a fictitious introduction if you want to. Pick her role.
I'll just tell you who she is, but I don't know who Sumanthi is, so I can't. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to, we're going to launch into the innovation, but here's where I'm going to ask for some participation help. I will be taking notes in a whiteboard as we start to close up the meeting. We're going to do 10 and close out the meeting. We're going to do a brainstorming 1, 2, 3 on how we actually solve and focus for the future. Service management, we've talked about the trends. We've talked about the challenges around implementation strategy, customer experience design. We've talked about service readiness transition, how we begin to support things. We've talked about managing operations and partnering with the business. We talked about business innovation and how to improve the quality of service with the new business demands. Now let's get into the innovation part. Back ground rules for brainstorming. It's going to be fast. I'm going to take notes, and you guys are going to supply the content. I don't think we're going to have problems with you guys being shy tonight because we've actually had a really great exchange today. The first part for brainstorming, we want to collect a bunch of ideas. We're going to spend 10 minutes doing that. Quantity and over quality. Brainstorming is lighthearted. There aren't dumb ideas. We want to encourage everybody to participate, which means at this point, your phone should be off mute as you get ready to talk about your inputs to Innovation 1, 2, and 3. Keep it simple. Think not very complex long strings. Think about a Twitter-related statement on your feedback into this brainstorming section. Don't criticize, but if we get bogged down, let's just redirect and get back focused so we can generate ideas. We want to engage. We want everybody participating. We want idea generation, collaboration, creation, and innovation. Are we going to do that? 1, 2, 3.
Let's do that.
Next. Are you guys ready? Now, if you haven't talked at this point, know that we just might be asking your opinion directly. I'm going to appoint a few people to help me make sure you guys participate, because the magic is when everybody's working together. If you don't have an idea, if you don't have an idea, share a challenge, ask a question, stuff like that. People I want to help engage some of the more shy people. Hardeep, Naveen, Steve, and Kalyan. We've got a few other people on the call. Occasionally, I'd like you to try to tag them and see if we can get them talking. It's just not right. We don't.
Looks like you're ganging up on the others.
We're not ganging up on them. But it'll all be good. It's gentle fun. Tag and collaborate. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to bring up a whiteboard. The first part is what? How do we deliver inspired service experience? We're going to do that for about 2 minutes. What do our customers want? What can we do to create uncommon value? And what do you think will have the most impact on creating a positive customer experience? So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to stop share here. And I'm going to share the whiteboard. Kalyan and Hardeep, because I know that you're great at multitasking, can you help keep me else at 10 minutes for the brainstorming part?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so we talked about the 10 trends and what we need to do, what CEOs, CFOs, and CIOs and CTOs are trying to do to lead in Silicon Valley. What do our customers want? What can we do to create uncommon value? And what has the most impact to creating a positive customer experience? And here is where I'm going to turn my camera off, and you guys are going to begin reading this, and I'm going to scribe.
I would say for the first one, I would go like customers want Uber-like or DoorDash-like customer experience. Doesn't matter whether it's food or IT.
Mm-hmm.
So it's consumerization of customer experience, right?
Exactly. And friendly version of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And how is that going to, how do you see that changing the way we do business today?
If the user gets what they need as soon as possible, they can go on with their job and do it effectively. If, say for example, if the user is locked out of a system and is waiting for getting access back for 30 minutes, then there's 30 minutes of business loss to the company, depending on who that person is.
John, can you hear me? This is Kalyan.
Yes.
Okay. I had some difficulty. Yeah, I would say that align yourself to business priorities.
how does that look like? What does that do to create uncommon value? How do people actually become aligned to business priorities? What's an example of you seeing that making a difference? How do they do it differently?
So there are many examples, but the way that I see it is that, change the focus, by changing the focus from, IT system level to business impact of, the operations or processes.
Got it. Good. Okay.
This is Roma. So just to piggyback on number one, I'd say that the customer wants full visibility into the process. So if you think of Uber and those apps, you can actually see how far away the cars are, or DoorDash, so you know that someone's working on your solution.
Good. That's a good one. Domino's does that too, where you order a pizza online and you can actually see where it is in the process and what they're going to do next.
Right. So I think it goes along with expectation setting.
I think Amazon's a really good example as well as that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Amazon's another good example because it takes into account weather conditions, holidays, whatever for your experience.
Mm-hmm. And you also know how far away your driver is.
Yep.
Oh, what?
You know how far away your driver is.
Oh, yeah.
And you get your picture if you want it.
That's a good one. Okay. What else? How do we create uncommon value for our customers? What do we do differently that creates uncommon value where they didn't have it before?
I could say surprise them, but you got to do it in a positive way, because a lot of organizations don't like to be bothered. They're perfectly happy with the IT relationship the way it is. So if you could do something to surprise it discreetly, just surprise them discreetly, and might become their best friend.
Having something ready even before a customer knows they need it.
There you go.
Oh, okay, great.
That's the perfect expression.
That's a good one.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, David Jobs.
Should be as simple as when Apple releases the iPhone, it should be on the service catalog for a customer to order. They'll be so happy.
Yes. You got it.
I also think that customers want to feel like the solution is customized specifically for them.
So I think knowing your customer, personalizing,
Mm-hmm.
so you know who you are talking to. One example would be, this is funny. If you call your help desk today on IT side, they'll say, "Oh, so who are you calling? What server what system you have, what version?" I think that the real environment would be, okay, the moment he picks up a call, he address you by your name based on your phone number, and he knows what it is, what you have, what problem you have facing.
So basically give the same level of importance that you give to a consumer of a company's solution or a product to the internal customers as well.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, good.
Extend the technological investments to internal IT as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Okay. Any others? What has the most impact to creating a positive customer experience? What do you see as doing differently that has the most impact to creating a positive customer experience?
I would say it goes back to fast, visible, simple.
And
tell me more about how that looks differently.
I think that goes back to the point that we just raised. So I can access the service wherever I need that. It has to be, I have a visibility to the, even if I don't get it immediately, I have a visibility of that, and it is very simple.
And I would add to that that one of the things I think is important is to be able to get something earlier than expected. Not much, just early. Beat that SLA.
Okay, great.
Comfortably.
Mm-hmm. Any other ideas as we close up on the number one part of our brainstorming, which is
one additional item.
Inspired service. What's that?
One additional item that I have for the most impact, creating a positive customer experience. Understanding actually what the customer needs and not assuming that this is what they need when they ask for something.
Mm.
I also think it would be interesting if like the IT service person had knowledge about the specific industry. So I work in the pharma industry, and at Genentech, I'm currently there, and like the IT group is totally disconnected from like anything pharma related. So they're helping me develop a PMO type of system in SharePoint. And it takes forever for them to really understand what I'm trying to do. And it would be helpful if they had some training on like the pharma industry and standard processes.
Yeah, I think that's
know
a great
the business
point.
is what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
knowing about the business. Yeah, that's what most engagements that I go into suffer from. I spend half my time there learning, trying to figure out where to learn about their industry.
Great.
That's a good one. Good stuff. So is this feeling like a good complete list? Is there anything missing that would really help to create that experience?
Automate it. That's all I can think of. Looks good to me.
Okay, so that's number one. Oops, if I can make it so. Now I want you to be thinking about number two. Who haven't we heard from, by the way? Have you guys been thinking about who you're going to tag?
I think we've heard from everyone.
I think everyone was active.
I think so too.
Whew. You didn't have to tag anybody then. That's kind of cool. Okay, to save this.
Don, you scared Sumati away.
Yeah, you threatened everyone, Don.
I'm pretty good at that. I am a little bit, I'm shy. Okay, good. That works. Now I need to figure out how to clear it. Clear. Okay, number two is how to deliver inspired service experience. So we've talked about the what we need to do. Now we need to talk about how we can do it. There's a couple questions supporting that. Just a second. We kind of did some of them as we ramped up, but we're going to delve into that now. For the things that we've identified, how can we deliver a more inspired service? How would people be working together differently? We don't have to cover all of these, but think about these aspects as we talk about the how of our what that we talked about before. How would processes be improved to make a bigger difference? And how could we use technology more effectively to accomplish some of the things that our customers want, the value that they need, or the experience that they desire? And I'm ready when you are.
I think of a lot of ways we can use technology to do it, but automation.
Okay. Anything that'll be done differently with automation?
Yeah. Provide better information about how things are connected together. So you have a concept of a service. And you can do wonders when you have that.
Great. Good point. Did I hear somebody say something, Kellyanne?
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are now.
Yeah, so I would say measure what matters to business rather than measuring what can be easily measured.
Yeah, I think I'll add. I think it's all about the channel that your user is comfortable with. Don't force the channel that you are comfortable with. For example, when Uber or Lyft or anybody creates a service, they create service for omni-channel. So you, whether you have an iPhone or Android or Windows phone, it works. So similarly, I think when we go in IT, we try to force, okay, you are engineering, you have to use, even if you're engineering and used to use Slack, no, you need to use Jabber because Jabber is our enterprise standard. And that's where the automation integration comes together. I think it does not matter what channel they're using. I think you need to have a mechanism to provide them those channel that they are comfortable with.
That's an important change requirement too for IT service management. Good point.
I think it was Steve who touched on this in the last question, but understanding the business, I think, also applies here. And so,
right.
Yeah, so maybe some more like FaceTime, some meetings, to really understand what the user is trying to do.
Good. Okay, anything else?
For the how can we deliver inspired service, one of the things that I would do differently is if we are unable to innovate in the enterprise service management area, at least the companies what they can do is imitate what's going on in the customer service industry in general.
What about staying engaged throughout the entire process? So circling back on, did we meet the business needs?
Right. Okay, anything else? Okay, when we start to stall, is there anybody that hasn't talked yet? Kellyanne, Naveen, Hardeep, Steve?
Nope. I've spoken.
No.
There are 7 people. I think everyone is speaking.
All right, good. I'm just checking. I can't see that right now. I'm thinking about this.
Oh, sorry, 6.
All right. Okay, now we're moving to 3, and we're doing really good. I have never seen this work so seamlessly. You guys are really a good team of innovators. This is.
Get us a job doing this.
Yes, but that makes it really delightful and fun. Where are the best opportunities from the things we've talked about tonight? There's a couple of questions underneath that. We won't talk about representing summarization because we didn't break into teams. So of the things we've talked about, what do you see yourself and your organizations being able to take forward from the things that we've talked about? Where is the best opportunity of what we've discussed tonight to make a difference? And what are the few simple steps that you will take over the next year to get yourself started and improve the customer experience, the support, the revenue, the partnership, the automation, the integration? Think about those things we've talked through them tonight. What are your thoughts?
One of the quick and easiest things that I would do is mandate that every member of my team really talks to the customer before marking a ticket as resolved, to understand that if that request has been taken care of from their perspective and not from just the agent's perspective.
Good one. Okay. What else?
And the next thing is to consider technological advancements as an enabler and not as a threat. One of the things that I would do is go back and look at what all the different technologies that are being used within my company, so we can see how best that can be automated to bring in, say, AI, ML-based advancements into the organization. So without depending on humans, at one point in the near future, we can go and provide 24/7 support and see how much of support can be provided through these automated channels instead of just solely depending on human interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, just a quick question. I mean, because I wanted to ask just about how mature a company has to be in your mind for to be able to do that sort of stuff. And by mature, I mean just have some simple processes. I don't mean fine details here.
So the way I look at it is, on day one, this is not going to happen. First, the organization has to get used to the different data that's available, and maybe you'll start with event-based automation, and then, but there should be this constant scale of improvement for artificial intelligence in corporation. Identifying the use cases plays an important role, and some of these use cases might take a significant amount of funding to start with, but there is a easily quantifiable way of bringing out the return on investment on that. So getting funding for these type of items might not be that difficult, like replacing servers or changing one to another without any change in the business process or the business features that rest of the teams get, where the funding, where people don't understand if the same X to Y process is happening and you're asking for additional investment and I don't get anything more than Y that I get today. In those cases, you won't be able to show that. It'll be difficult to prove or get that prioritization and funding. But for these type of items, there is definitely a way, or you'll be in a better position to get funding to
so
show that improvement.
Technology pieces first, and then try and move to the processes. Is that what I'm hearing?
Process should be there. That's when you'll be able to automate those items. If you don't know how those systems work, or if you don't have a run book for understanding how a resolution happens, you won't be able to effectively implement it.
Mm-hmm.
So identifying those type of items, addressing how you're treating those exceptions or how you're resolving those issues is really the key. That is the identifying the use case part. When you identify it, the next thing that happens is you have to see how the whole flow happens, so that you can let a bot take care of things. And where is the history data available for that? How can it be labeled for a bot to self-learn?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that that's really important too. I've seen that done well too. And that's just basically having them do the work they're doing and bringing in somebody else to look at how do we automate and we document.
Yeah, so this is the reason I asked that question is because being in broken organizations occasionally, you really kind of have to figure out how to sell this more appealing vision to them, and sometimes it just falls on deaf ears, and so you really got to try and figure out some incremental methods to kind of get them moving in the right direction.
Good. Okay. What else? How do others encourage this notion of experimenting and getting people amenable to a pilot of something that could solve the problem in a big way, but we need to start in a small way?
I know the best way to do that.
Tell me.
When they're in crisis. Whenever they have a crisis, they will jump to a solution very quickly.
Uh-huh.
And that may be a time to actually try and do something with it. But a lot of times it's not, because they're trying for a point solution that doesn't have process or anything else around it. It's going to deal with maybe some critical assets or something that are falling down on a regular basis, and they have to figure out how to manage those. Shove them in the CMDB and say if they're managing them, which just puts them worse off than they were.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my objectives this year, if I can do that, is to get rid of self-service portals in my organization.
Really? Okay. And then
what? That's hearsay.
Yes. And I'm serious. I think I'm on a journey to make sure that by the end of 2019, I don't have a self-service portal in the organization.
Really?
And then what would you be doing instead?
It will be all Slack driven or bot driven. So if you can't get your service delivered through bot, there is no service.
Hey, Don?
He is moving from visual interfaces to conversational interfaces.
I think we're
just at the top of the hour. Yes.
At the top of the hour, yeah.
Yep. So any last thoughts on what we could do, simple steps that we've missed before we close things down for the night?
You know, that actually is a pretty good idea. Number 9.
Yeah.
That could save a lot of money.
Yeah, because you're
writing all the workflow for that stuff is very expensive, and it's
what works is
massive overhead.
Searchable in Slack. Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm going to save this. Kalyan and Hardeep, I'm going to back to you. Do you have any closing thoughts that for tonight? And then I'll our next steps will be to put this together into a written next steps document. We'll probably have a discussion on it in December, another webinar.
No, I would like to thank everybody who joined. I think thank you all. Really appreciate your participation. I think we have to spread the word so that we can get more participation from the team. I think today there was some confusion on the Zoom information, so probably we'll do a better job next time.
Yeah, and I'm responsible for that. I actually
it happens, Don. Yep. It's just this happens. So I think going forward we'll do a better job there.
Yeah.
But I think thank you all, and this was very interesting. I think hearing all of you, getting your ideas is really thought provoking. So thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to, I think Don and Hardeep has talked all the details, provided all the details. So we're at the top of the hour. So good night and thanks for joining this call. I know it's difficult on a weekday, 6 to 8 p.m., but please continue to provide your support and just participate. And I think you have gotten a glimpse of what we can do together, in these brainstorming sessions. So once again, thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Same to you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey, thank you very much for organizing the event.
Yes.
Thanks for joining.